Record number of migrant children are in Border Patrol custody, and shelter beds are scarce, raising fears of a new crisis at the border.
And a crisis it indeed is. More than 3,200 unaccompanied migrant children are now being housed in Customs and Border Protection holding facilities. Two different sources have confirmed. The New York Times, citing internal CBP documents, first reported that the number of detained children had tripled in the last 2 weeks, which is, I mean, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I don't think anyone predicted that, as bad as it already was, that it would get so much worse so fast. Nearly half of the children, 1,400, have been held beyond the 3-day legal limit. CBP holding cells, sometimes known as hieleras, I assume that's Spanish. I apologize for my mispronunciation, which I'm assuming I butchered, are not designed for children. Oh God, they're typically small concrete rooms with concrete or metal benches and no beds. So yeah, about as bad as you might imagine the conditions actually are. And here was our fear that we talked about a couple of weeks ago when one of those facilities was reopened, one of the tent facilities that had initially started under the Trump administration, would be that, hey, Trump's gone. And Biden doesn't seem like he, for some reason, weirdly hates brown kids, so it's probably fine, right, JR?
Absolutely.
And yet, look, in a couple of weeks, it's already gotten much worse.
And that could be strictly based off of the numbers, right? We're talking about the numbers, how much more they've increased over time, yes. And then the ability to put all this together. And again, you referenced the fact that we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and how the housing facilities are still the same and they're working on it. And my point then was, show us evidence of you progressing on this, because maybe you were in a bad spot to start from, because we know who you were handed the keys from, who handed you the keys to the administration and the things they were doing before that. So just show us that you're working towards this as quickly as possible, because these are humans. Let's not forget that part. So if there's a problem with how long people are in holding cells, or children are in inhumane conditions, or adults are in inhumane conditions, show us that you're doing something about that if you care. If you're not showing us that, it kind of sounds like you're kind of trying to sweep this under the rug and keep things moving, or maybe make it incrementally better. It's only gonna be like 25% better. At least they have this kind of bed rather than that kind of hard bed, so it's a kind of semi-hard bed. It does. There needs, and I'm glad that there's still people that are reporting on this. Some about the way this could be going, because we need to see proof of this change. And maybe they're expecting everyone that voted for them to just say, oh yeah, sure, yeah, it's Biden. Everything's gonna be great, without actually paying attention anymore.
Yeah, and like we said the first time, I do believe that in general terms, I don't think that Biden is gonna institute a policy, the intent of which is to cause so much human suffering that people thousands of miles away will be so terrified that they'll stay in a place where they could be murdered at any moment rather than come here. But that doesn't mean that a ton of human suffering won't result or isn't already happening now. Especially when, and I feel it's important to remind people of this, it isn't going to be Joe Biden who's in these rooms dealing with these kids. It's gonna be ICE and CBP people who have done horrible things over the past few years. And sure, the president's different, but those individuals who are gonna be putting all of the policies into practice are just as predisposed to harassment, physical abuse, sexual abuse, literal cases of rape. Those sorts of things happen not because Trump himself went to the border and did it, but because you have a sick system with a ton of sick people in it. That system's still there. Those people are still there. And so when I hear things like this video we're about to show you, I get a little bit worried. So what are the conditions actually like? Well, we have some general details, but we don't have a ton of like on the ground footage, because as of right now, we can't yet. So that seems like a problem. And here is the press secretary addressing those concerns.
Why so few details on this release? This doesn't seem to be in the transparency of, in the spirit of transparency that Secretary Mayorkas promised here at this platform. There were no cameras, there were no press. Julissa answered very few details about what they saw on that visit.
Well, first, the president, as she conveyed, asked them to go because he really wanted to get a full assessment from senior members of his policy team about what they were seeing on the ground, based on meetings, based on conversations with officials from HHS, officials who were running these facilities about what their challenges are, what improvements could be made. And as she noted, they also spoke with children. They'll have, as is a normal part of any internal policy process, they'll have a briefing with him in the coming days. We do look forward to, he's committed to, we are all committed to allowing cameras into these facilities, but we want to figure out the best way to do that, protecting the privacy of the kids in a way that's secure and safe. And certainly that's something we look to do in the future.
So look, do the privacy rights of the kids matter? Of course they do. Is it sort of a convenient way to buy yourself a couple of weeks? Seems like it. And when any government politician's like, oh no, I would like totally love for you to be able to see what's going on there, but like there's something else that you should be more worried about. We'll get back to it at some point. Like we always say, Biden's not in fact my grandfather. She is not my aunt. I'm not predisposed to believe them. Like they're still government officials. And so when it's the welfare of kids that's at risk, I'm not interested in their little evasions or their little delays. I want to know what's going on, and I want to know that it's probably pretty horrible, and that would then put pressure on them to make it better as quickly as possible. I'm sure they will say, what could we do? Lots of kids started coming across. And apparently, according to the numbers, that is true. The numbers have spiked. But you're supposed to be better than Stephen Miller and Trump. You have the entire apparatus of the US government. You can figure something out other than tents. I could have figured out tents. You could figure out something better. Get Pete Buttigieg. I hear he's awesome. Maybe he can come up with something.
Well, he's in administration now. So maybe I'm a bad politician. Maybe I'm a bad political advisor. Maybe that's why I don't have these types of jobs. But I think it's pretty easy to, if people want to see the insides of these places and they're horrible, I know it could look bad politically, but you just got into office. So you can admit even before cameras come in, yeah, the situations are horrible at these facilities. We're working to fix that. It can't be an overnight solution if that's what's happening. But you can't say that if you're not doing that, because people will circle back and say, okay, it's been 3 months now. What's going on in these facilities? And if it's still the same, now we have a problem that you're just not doing anything about. So if it's a problem now, it's easy to say, hey, there's a problem. We're gonna change this. Look at how horrible it is. It's okay, yes, you got elected and you're in office and you can say things are bad. This is one of those politician lines that as soon as you're in office, as soon as you have any kind of support, you have to act like everything is just great. Well, why did you run then if everything is great after 2 months? Everything can't be great after 2 months. Just pitch a little bit of reality instead of this whole, I'm Superman, politician man. I'm in office now, everything is great. It kind of works because regular citizens believe that for some reason. Somebody crosses into the White House doors and then suddenly everything changes. No, they have to do something to change this stuff. So then make them do it, watch them do it, monitor their progress, and report back. But who knows if that'll happen, because we just buy into people saying, well, someone else is in office, everything must be great now.
Exactly, that's my fear. And this is one of the most obvious examples, but in others perhaps as well.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.